upon. The activities of the ISS must keep going and expand in the future. We can't go back one step back. We can't do that. The question is, will that future be the ISS, some expansion, some new experiment platform, maybe something on near the moon or something based on the moon? We avoid human debris fields for sure, but that's very expensive. And so regardless, the International Space Station has been a great asset. I want to remind everybody what this space station has done. Every single day since November 2nd of 2000, we've got a human being in orbit on the International Space Station, 230 miles above our planet. And in fact, our 2 honored guests over there, these two amazing ladies, weren't born when the station went into orbit and became active. But we're here to make sure you have a space station or something like that to go to. You walk on the moon or walk on Mars and wave to us and say, hey, Energy Committee there, Space Science Technology Committee, I'm on Mars, I'm on the moon. We all know, too, the ISS has done great wonders, great experiments we can't do here on Earth. Couple examples, the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, AMS. It's been up there since 2013, and it may have discovered the start of dark matter. As y'all know, most of our universe is dark matter, and that's a huge benefit for human life. Also, as you guys talked about, the benefits to human health that we've learned at the International Space Station. For example, learning how to deal with muscle atrophy, also bone density loss, and fluid shifts. And just what we learned that Scott Kelly can now call his twin, or could call his twin Mark, shrimp for a few weeks because Scott was 2 weeks taller than Mark when he came back home after almost 1 year in space. I want to talk about going forward and making sure we keep this an international space station. That means, we have a plan to stop flying or something by 2024 right now that could be extended. I want to ask a question of all of you, starting with you, Gertz. How are international partners engaged in this? They want us to extend it? How long? What will they pay? Again, we've got Japan, China, Russia, America, including the Republic of Texas, European Space Agency, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, United Kingdom. All these nations are involved right now at space station. How are they going forward with our plans? Do they want to go to 2024 longer? And what will they put up to help us go make those things happen?
I think in general, the international partnership wants to continue using station. They see it still as a resource that has plenty of life in the future, and they want to continue to use it. There's a European ministerial at the end of this year, in November of this year, and at that time we should see a formal position from the European Space Agency about their position of using station beyond 2024.
Mr. Martin.
Again, just a caution, every space agency, like every government, has a limited budget. So ESA's budget, while significant and important to maintenance of the International Space Station, is much, much smaller than NASA's. From what I've read, they've shown some interest in being part of a planned Chinese space station set to launch and begin construction in 2022. I just don't know that their budget is large enough to continue their current commitment to the ISS past 2024, as well as partake in perhaps the Artemis mission with the U.S. or the Chinese space station activities.
Mr. Stauber.
The United States is the global leader in space, and I think we need to continue to be that way. I think the international partnerships that we have on the space station are critical and most necessary, and I think we should continue to engage our global partners. But do keep in mind, when you walk around the United States, the Republic of Texas, all over the world, you see people wearing NASA T-shirts. Yep. It's a brand. You don't see people wearing other space agency, the Polish space agency, or anything else, T-shirts. So I think that's critical to keep in mind. The leadership that NASA provides the world is imperative.
And not to butcher name, but Dr. G, Any comments on?
That's what my students call me. Please feel free. And as a good Brunowitz, I do not like you dissing the Polish space agency.
I only do that because they're one of the newest space agencies around, and I don't know what their logo is. But I'm fully supportive of the Polish Space Agency and all global space agencies, except for two.
Okay. Coming from a space law perspective, the reason why we have the Outer Space Treaty and other treaties is because the world faced its worst fears at the time, placing nuclear weapons in space. And people forget that the Outer Space Treaty prohibits putting nuclear weapons in space, which makes it one of the most important treaties of the 20th century. But the treaty also provides for our highest aspirations, which are space is dedicated to peaceful purposes for all humankind. When the space station was first proposed by President Reagan, it was the height of the Cold War. The Soviet Union was our enemy. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the space station. The Cold War came to an end, and the Soviet Union became the Russians, and the Russians became a partner. And now here we are in the era of globalization, and we've had a space station for 30 years in which we have learned how to work together with one another. And each country that is in that station is making a commitment financially, technologically, and otherwise that relative to their assets is just as great as what the United States provides. And I would point out the Canadarm as a fantastic example of that. The Canadarm, in terms of dollars, is a relatively smaller contribution than some of the other bigger elements. But we would not have a space station without the Canadarm. So I think we need to think of the space station in terms of quality as well as quantity, and the quality of the relationships we have with 15 other nations through the space station agreement is not to be understated.
We're over my time, Chairman. I thank you so much. I want to remind you there's a special countdown happening right now around Johnson Space in Houston, Texas. It's T-minus 94 days and counting until the Texas Longhorns repeat and beat the Oklahoma Sooners. They boom them in Dallas.